Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, we're from Group 7 and we're going to discuss Piaget's Constructivism. My name is Sanja Imelda and my partner's name is Miftaqur Saputri. Now let us take a look to the Piaget's Constructivism. Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget is a Swiss expert who is well known for his studies of the intellectual growth of children and his influential theory of cognitive development. He is considered as the founder of constructivism, as this latter is derived from the field of cognitive psychology, which is based on his work. Piaget called his theoretical orientation to the study of cognitive development as genetic epistemology, because he was primarily interested in how an organism adapts to its environment. Piaget's theory was little noticed when it first appeared, but gradually it ascended to a major position in the field of human development. Although Piaget's theory no longer is a leading theory of cognitive development, it remains important and has several useful implications for instructional and learning. Let's take a look to the major principle of Piaget's constructivism. To Piaget, the individual's understanding of a given situation is a part of adaptation of the situation, and the cognitive development is the individual's intelligence in making equilibration of the cognitive. Cognitive development itself, according to Piaget, is achieved through two major principles. The first is adaptation and the second is organization. In the adaptation, there is assimilation and accommodation. Moreover, in the principle of organization, there is equilibration and schemata. Let's discuss for the principle of adaptation. For individuals to survive in an environment, they must adapt to physical and mental stimuli. Assimilations and accommodations are both of the adaptation process. The first is assimilation. Assimilation refers to fitting external reality to the existing cognitive structure. When we interpret, construe, and frame, we alter the nature of reality to make it fit our cognitive structure. Assimilation occurs when a child perceives new objects or even in terms of existing schemas or operations. As for example, there is a little girl named Angie. Angie sees her own snapshot in a photo album for the first time. Her father asks her, "Who is that, Angie?" She points to the picture which shows the little girl and says, "It is a baby, Daddy." Angie cannot identify herself in the picture, and then the father points out that the picture is her. He tells her, "Yes, Angie, there is a baby, and the baby is you." He then explains how pictures are taken to capture moments. In this case, with the goal for Angie to sort out what her dad just educated her concerning the image, she would have needed to somehow assimilate the information from her father into her existing internal cognitive structures. She might do this by assuming that her father was teasing her and that the picture was of another child. Or she could infer that the picture was taken at a different time as explained by her father. In this way, Angie finds a way to fit this external reality with her internal cognitive structures or schemas. I emphasize the functional quality of assimilation, where children and adults tend to apply any mental structure that is available to assimilate a new event, and actively seek to use this newly acquired mental structure. Then let's go to the next point. The next is accommodation. Accommodation refers to changing internal structures to provide consistency with external reality. It is some old schemes are adjusted and new ones created to produce a better fit the environment. We accommodate when we adjust to make sense of reality. It occurs when existing schemas or operations must be modified or new schemas are created to account for new experience. Let us considering again to the Angie's case. She understands that she could not exist in two places. Therefore, if her father states that the girl in the picture is her, Angie will naturally have to alter her internal mental structures to adjust to the newly discovered external reality. This may mean that she will have to believe that photograph represents moment from the past. Thus, Angie could see herself in photograph and still exist in the present time. Within this way, she can accommodate her internal mental structures of her external reality. The second major principle is organization. To elaborate, organization is the process by which the child links existing stems into new and more complex stems to produce an interconnected cognitive system. Equilibration and samatha are both part of the organization process. Piaget believed that cognitive development in children depends on four factors: biological maturations, experience with the physical environment, experience with the social environment, and equilibration. Equilibration refers to a biological drive to produce an optimal state of equilibrium or adaptation between cognitive structures and the environment. Equilibration is the central factor and the motivating force behind cognitive development. It coordinates the actions of the other three factors and makes internal mental structures and external environmental reality consistent with each other. Returning again to the example of Angie, when she hears that the baby in the photograph is her, then she have some internal conflict or a state of disequilibration. Angie's natural biological drive would immediately guide her to achieve a state of equilibrium between her external world and her internal mental structures. She would first try to assimilate the information received from the external world into her existing internal cognitive structures. Angie will somehow adjust the stimulus of her picture to account for the fact that she could exist in still form such as any picture and at the same time to be in motion in real life. To get this, she must interpret, alter the nature of reality, or even change her belief system. The next point and major principle of organization is samatha. Samatha are the cognitive or mental structures by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize the environment. It can be defined as the mental representation of an associated set of perceptions, ideas, and or actions. As cognitive development proceeds, new samatha are developed and existing samatha are more efficiently organized to better adapt to the environment. Cognitive development becomes evident through changes in behavior as these adaptations takes place. The process of assimilation involves attempts to organize existing samatha for better understanding events in the external world, whereas accommodation involves changing pre-existing samatha to adapt to a new situation.
And it's me, Miftaqur Saputri, and I will explain four major stages of cognitive development. According to Piaget, the children are not receiving the knowledge from their parents and teachers, but they create their ideas. It means that they construct their own knowledge actively. In discovering children and adolescents' cognitive development, he identified four major stages. Those are sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. Piaget believed that all children pass through these phases to advance the next level of cognitive development. In every stage, children demonstrate new intellectual abilities and complex understanding of the world. These stages cannot be skipped, which means intellectual development always follows this sequence. The age at which the children progress through the stage can be vary, depending on their environment and background of individual children. So this picture represents Piaget's cognitive development stages. The first stage is sensory motor stage. This stage involves the use of motor activity without the use of symbols. Knowledge is limited because it is based on interactions and experiences. At this stage, children cannot predict the reaction. Therefore, they must constantly experiment and learn through trial and error. Such exploration might include shaking a toy or putting an object into their mouth. As they become more mobile, the baby's cognitive ability will increase. Early language development begins during this stage. Object permanence occurs at 7 to 9 months, indicating that memory is developing. The children realize that the object exists after it can no longer be seen. The second stage is pre-operational stage. This stage occurs in the period between toddlerhood or 18 to 24 months and early childhood or 7 years. In this stage, children start to use language. Their memory and imagination also develop. The children are able to make believe, understand, and express the relationship between past and future. But they haven't learned more complex concepts such as cause and effect relationship. They also enable to think in more than one dimension at a time. For example, if they focus on length, they focus on the longer object only. A ruler is a bigger object than a brick, even though the shorter one is the wider and deeper. Pre-operational children demonstrate irreversibility, which means when one thing is done, it cannot be changed then. For example, when a box flattened, it cannot be remade into a box. Distinguishing fantasy and reality is a difficult thing for them. Perhaps they assume that cartoon characters appear as real as people. The period is one of the rapid language developments. The children's intelligence is egocentric, or thinking only oneself without regard for the feelings or desires of others, and intuitive, not logical. The third stage is concrete operational. Concrete operational stage usually develops between the age of 7 to 11 years old. The intellectual development can be seen through the use of logical and systematic manipulation of symbols, which are related to concrete objects. Besides that, their language and basic skill acquisition are accelerating dramatically. Children begin to show some abstract thinking, although it typically is defined by properties or action. For example, honestly is returning money to someone who lost it. Their thinking becomes less egocentric with increased awareness of external events and involve concrete references. Concrete operational thinking no longer is dominated by perception, but they can draw experiences and are not always influenced by their perceive. The last one is formal operational. The period from adolescence through adulthood is the formal operation stage. Adolescents and adults use symbols related to abstract concepts. Adolescents can think about multiple variables in systematic ways, formulate hypotheses, and think about abstract relationship and concept. Egocentrism appears in adolescents when they compare reality to the ideal. Thus, they often show idealistic thinking.
Back again with me, Mega Sanja Imelda, and I'm going to present about educational implication of Piaget's Constructivism. There are three implications of Piaget's Constructivisms. The first one is teaching is always indirect. Kids do not just take in what is being said. Instead, they interpret what they hear in the light of their own knowledge and experience. They transform the input. The second implication of Piaget's constructivism is the transmission model or conduit metaphor of human communication will not work. To Piaget, knowledge is not information to be delivered at one end and encoded, memorized, retrieved, and applied at the other end. Instead, knowledge is experience that is acquired through interaction with the world. And then the last implication of Piaget's constructivism is a theory of learning that ignores resistance to learning misses the point. Piaget shows that indeed kids have good reasons not to abandon their views in the light of external perturbation. Conceptual changes have almost a life of its own. For Piaget, the main goals of education in general is to have creative and innovative individuals who are able to take initiative to do things instead of repeating what other generations have achieved. Furthermore, Piaget's theory is a call to form critical generations which find out things themselves instead of accepting whatever given by others. To this end, during the initial stages of learning, teacher should provide rich environment for the exploration of any field. They should involve interesting materials to encourage the learners get active and constructors of their own knowledge through their experiences which require the processes of assimilation and accommodations. The teacher's role is to facilitate learning by providing a variety of experiences.
And the last point is criticism of Piaget's constructivism. During the 1960s and 1970s, researchers identified shortcomings in Piaget's constructivism. Second, Piaget's theory predicts that thinking within a particular stage will be similar across tasks. It means preschool children should perform as the pre-operational children in all cognitive tasks. However, researchers have shown diversity in children's thought across cognitive tasks. And third, Piaget showed that effort to teach children developmentally advanced concepts would be unsuccessful. Other research has found that children learn more advanced concepts with relatively brief instruction. Researchers now believe that children may be more competent than Piaget thought, especially in practical knowledge. Moreover, some of the researchers cannot rely on Piaget's theory because Piaget only involved 3 children, which is they are Piaget's children, as the object of his research. So this is the end of our explanation about Piaget's constructivism. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice day.